Deeper and deeper I go, I find what it is I should know. 'Cause it's just a matter of time that you'll reawaken your mind. Oh, come with me, come to know and find out what is true. Then you'll know what's in store just for you. No more living a lie. I can look to the sky and say, I'm reawakening minds. Come to know and find out what is truth, yes. Then you'll know what's in store just for you. No more living a lie. I can look to the sky and say, I'm reawakening minds.
Happy Holy Day, Moors. Welcome to House of Reawakening Minds. House of Reawakening Minds exists to provide for the exploration and practice of spirituality in an enlightened community dedicated to honoring the myriad of sacred pathways to the universal creator. We are a holistic center for spiritual grounding, free thought, self-discovery, and Moorish science, and awakening experience for all ages. Tonight, I am pleased to present to you our National Grand Sheikh, Taj Tarik Bey, as he presents Olmec, Old Amexem, Yucatan and Yacub. But before he begins, please be sure to like, share, and if you have not already done so, subscribe to our channel. Now, let's receive Grand Sheikh Taj Tarik Bey.
Islam. Assalamu alaikum, shalom, body makem. We're going to talk a little bit about what is known as Central Ancient Amexem, also known as Central Ancient Africa, also known as the land of the Olmec, or Old Amexem peoples of the land. One of the reasons we're having this discussion, and it's a loose discussion because most of you have a background in, particularly those who have been sharing with us for years, and those who have adeptus scholarship are well aware of the hybrid experiments that took place in the Yucatan, and many of you are aware of Dr. Yacub. Now, a lot of times when people talk about Dr. Yacub, and that's from the Moabite Empire. And keep in mind, the great Moabite Empire superseded, preceded the Moorish Empire. And that is the same peoples dealing with the matriarchy when they refer to as the woman or the women who rule. And also, you'll refer to them loosely in different ancient texts as the Amazonian queens. Also, you'll hear that. And the takeover of the Amazonian queens, as a matter of fact, that has much to do with the blonde daughters who took over after the Germanic tribes began to populate Amrak or America. And most of their orders are pretty much patterned after existing orders. And this is one of the reasons why scholars who know the real history will refer to many of the orders that have been attributed to contemporary European colonial operations as Babylonian in their nature or origin, but dealing with dark side, or what you call the corrupted side. And the corrupted side more or less only indicates the de facto nature due to the fact of colonization. So when you're looking at colonization, you want to look at it not only from the perspective of alien peoples stealing or taking over lands and properties and estates of Aboriginal people. You look at it also with the advent of what they refer to loosely and not necessarily properly, but they refer to them as the Indexus Librorum Prohibitorum and Indexus Librorum Expurgatorius, loosely referred to as the Great Christian Book Burnings, i.e., the reconstructing of history, and also distorting the reality of the human pedigrees. And so when you look at more of your contemporary orders, as an example, like the Daughters of the American Revolution, and you see the DAR building completely of marble, including all the steps, located at District of Columbia. And then you see the brass plaque dealing with the takeover of the confederations of the Aboriginal tribes here, and becoming the contemporary order of the United States and of the Republic. And then you take in consideration the internal distortions and misprisions that took place later, and that became the corporate United States of America, more specifically and openly, February 2nd of 1871, which has much to do with the politics that we're dealing with today. However, what you recognize is many of the Aboriginal people, due to the operations of reconstructed history and distortions, there's a mental disconnect or mental disassociation of our people to the land, which is part of colonial operations. And this is one of the reasons why we're having this discussion about Dr. Yacub. And also, give me the book over there, Negro Proper, the Nigger Industry. And I may have it over here, but just in case, if you have it over there. And many of you are aware. How many of you have, as an example, Oxford dictionaries of your earlier form, say pre-1960? And you'll find in the Oxford dictionary where the hybrid Europeans refer to themselves as heterogeneous hybrids. Look up the word hybrid and go into your Oxford dictionary. You will not find it in your later abridged dictionaries. You'll find it in your very early unabridged dictionaries, and particularly in Oxford dictionaries. And it would refer to the hybrid Europeans as Englishmen or Anglomen, and it will say, going down into your numerical entries at about 0.8, it will say, we Englishmen at best are but heterogeneous hybrids. Now, a heterogeneous hybrid is essentially two species, essentially genetically blended in order to create a hybrid. That's what a hybrid is. Heterogeneous means two different species, not necessarily as you look at, as people might assume on surface, two different necessarily nations, states, etc., in the concept that the people think now. So when you're talking about the Yacubian experiments that took place in the Yucatan, you're looking at not only a different time period, you're looking at, you're looking at the fact that in the contemporary world, the people have been deceived relative to many of the hybrids having a Paleolithic skin, and this is where many of our Bantu, Mandinka, and Phoenicia tribes of the West would refer to them as paleface. But the paleface comes because the word pale actually is derivative from Paleolithic. And this deals with your essentially your Anthropopithecus species. Now, your Anthropopithecus species deals with what you hear Charles Darwin and other European naturalists who have been credited with with the controlled narrative of the human pedigrees, or what you would call the phenotypes, etc. And then you're going into Carlos Linnaeus, Blumenbach, etc. And knowing that those code systems have been adopted within the social, political, educational systems at North America, that the masses of the people are trained to look at these things as what they refer to as race among the human. When the real deal of it is that you're dealing with a heterogeneous species that has actually pretty much under colonial operations taken over not only the Maghreb, or what you call the North America. They've also taken over most of the nations of the world, and they would be referred to loosely. You would look for many of you who know a little bit of Berber culture, because most of the people have been groomed in the Berber culture via the Bible, or Septuaginta. And so when you're looking at the Bible and Septuaginta, keep in mind that you are indeed looking at or dealing with different allegorical stories and also projections coming from Berber culture. Is really referred to Berber. That's what it's actually referred to. And so you're dealing with the Moabite, Canaanite, Hittite tribal families that are commonly referred to as the Asiatic Africans. And the experiments that took place in the Yucatan, most people look at, say, Dr. Yacub as a male figure by himself, but very few take in consideration that the predominant authorities during the Moabite reign, or the human family, is matriarchal. And so by most of the stories being told, people will credit Dr. Yacub, but they forget about the 13 Moabite scientist women. And even when you, for those of you who have done a little bit of research into the social structure operating at North America, and particularly in the more contemporary world, who know the real history, also know that roughly around 60 to 62% of all of your biggest, or what you call most strong, what they refer to as slaveholders, were actually women. That's another part of history that has not been told to the people. But that's something to give you thought on, as things have changed over the centuries. The perceptions that people have about the operations of social structure on the planet have been distorted. And this is another reason why we always remind our people, as they become more and more conscious of their pedigree, their bloodline, and their attachment to the land, Midgard, that they don't come into this knowledge or come into this information with an arrogant mind or an arrogant head, or put it this way. Some people, when they get more information on the human experience, they have a tendency to look at the great things that we've done and boast of the great things that we've done and pat themselves on the back, and then try to separate themselves mentally or politically from the negative things that we have done as a people. In other words, we've done great things and we've done not so great things. And in the process of healing humanity and starting to bring some more clarity to the human experience here at Midgard, a lot of the history that has been covered up by virtue of colonial operations must be exposed, so that everyone can begin to take responsibility for their participation in life itself. And everything that has occurred is not always to be looked at from a victim mentality, but more or less from a cause and effect mentality. Well, let's look at a little bit of the history of Yacub as an example. Knowledge is power. Being without knowledge is most detrimental to oneself. Wisdom is the creator herself. And those who despise wisdom and instruction are fools. You also find that in the Berber culture in the Bible, or Septuaginta, Proverbs 1:7. Now that would be altered into what is known as the Christian version of the Bible. And furthermore, one should aspire to know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding. That's Proverbs 1:2. Now, with these thoughts here in mind, that the history of the Moorish nation and all of its related subjects have not been taught. Keep this in mind, have not been taught since 1863. Now, those of you who know the political operations here at the Maghreb, Northgate, and many of you who may be Eastern Stars or Knights Templars or Kyklos, known as the Ku Klux Klan, or Freemasons, or Odd Fellow, or Knights of Malta, etc., Knights of Columbus, etc., Daughters of ISIS, Daughters of American Revolution, and all of your other multiple leveled secret societies are basically well aware why in their rituals and in many of their ceremonies, the majority of them will wear or would don what they would refer to in the orders as the crown of the sun, referred to as Tierra Sol. Tierra Sol meaning crown of the sun. In common language, it would be called the Fez, F-E-Z, the Moorish national headdress. Now, when they wear the Fez, symbolically, it is as a crown that they have conquered the people of the sun, or people of Midgard Earth. The crown doesn't belong to them, but it is a symbol of conquest. So when you see many of your different orders wearing the Moorish Fez in their secret societies, understand that it does not belong to them. It is a ritual for conquest, like a trophy. And for some of you who will take notes, say after we talk about this, start looking up and doing a little research, and you'll see many of the people who are praetors. Now, the praetors of Rome are referred to in common language as presidents. Keep this in mind. Presidents for the United States corporation operating on the land under the doctrine of discovery at North America, proper designation are praetor, P-R-E-A-T-O-R. They're presented to the common people as quote unquote president. So all of the presidents are Roman praetors, all right? Start looking up, say, as an example, even one of the most famous operatives to counter or to create the distorted or maintain the distortion or the distortion narrative for the people of the land here, who has a principal hand in operating what is known as COINTELPRO operations. J. Edgar Hoover, look him up, and then type up, say, J. Edgar Hoover with the Moorish Fez, and you'll see he has a Moorish Fez. Look up Ford. Look up any so-called president for the United States corporation, and put in there Fez, all your political heads, and you'll find that whether you're dealing with people, as an example, even your so-called 14th Amendment propagators, known as civil rights appointed corporate appointed leaders who are famous for marching our people around and arguing race and prejudice in order to pacify our people, so that they're not aware of the doctrine of discovery, which is the real issue going on. Look up their names, and I won't have to name them. You know who they are. You've been trained from childhood that these are great, quote unquote, Negro leaders. They got fezzes too. And that goes whether they're just dealing with so-called civil rights, or whether they're dealing with your so-called major leaders in the churches or the mosque. They all have fezzes. So when you think, or when the propagation to the public is that any of these people, whether they're Asiatic Africans in North America playing the civil rights race argument game, they call it the race card, which is for mind control principles, because it's not what's going on, or you're dealing with any of your political heads that are telling you to vote for them, you'll find that secretly 90% of them have in their private life, not known to you, Moorish fez, while pretending they don't know who the Moors are. The Moors is a short term dealing with the Mandinka, Phoenicia, Bantu tribes of the planet. And when you think, as they've told you, only on the other side of the world, your concepts are absolutely wrong. And this is why people who know the real history know that the people here, or what you call the first peoples at the Maghreb, or what you would call Al-Iraq, i.e. the Western Hemisphere, etc., are essentially Phoenicians. And that's still to cover up or to, how do you say, give a general term for all the Asiatic African tribes, because we peopled the planet, not just one side of the planet. The projection has been to make the people think that the people were static and pretty much stable just in small pockets, when in fact the empires of the ancient world bridged the entire planet, not just in what we would call Nubia, Sudan, Eritrea, although these are, or what you would call, the points of the grid that we deal with metrology, because remember, we lay out civilization on metrology, on what you call star charts. And because we look at the point of reference, or what you call the longitudinal and latitudinal lines, or the grid lines and the ley lines for the planet, we would look at on the other side that we refer to as Hikupta, Egypt, Eritrea, that area, as being the center or at the point beneath the north, etc. And therefore, all consciousness for the position of the pole star, we would look at that point or that grid line on the planet, etc., as point origin or point ought. And so this is the reason why when you see in the rituals of life and recognition of life and the recognition of cosmology and the rituals of cosmology, which is the fundamentals of what you would call the cultures of the world, and those who know less of it just simply would call it religion, when the fact of the matter is most of the people on the planet don't get religion, they get dogma in the name of religion for control purposes. But true religion is based in, i.e. star charts, cosmology, astrology, and what you would call hermetic law or maxim principles of law. And so when you're looking at people doing their rituals, you'll see them all face east. Right in harmony with nature, whereas when the sun rises, you'll see the plants and you'll see the trees, they will slightly bend eastward. And those who know a little bit about plant life and horticulture, etc., you'll recognize, even if you're, like, say for instance, if you're traveling at night, right, or in the evening when the sun is not there. How would you find east? Study the plants and particularly trees and look where their major bend of the leaves are, and then look at, like say, if you see a tree and trees, their trunks are generally round. But if you study particularly a lot of your little saplings, you'll see that the trunks are actually slightly ovoid. So you look at the point where you have your strength growth, etc., and that's where east will be. And this is why those in all Asiatic African rituals would always, when they pray or concentrate, they would pray east. And so they pray east towards what you call Egypt or Hikupta, or that line from Sudan, Nubia, etc., that whole line. And this is one of the reasons why when people are doing research on human family, that they always go to Egypt. What